Preview.
Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal and you are watching the Mojo Story. The Supreme Court will be giving its judgment regarding the contentious release of 11 convicts involved in the brutal murder of the family of Bilkis Bano and her rape uh, during the 2022 during the 22 Gujarat riots, 2002 Gujarat riots, in which many people were killed. Now, Bilkis Banu, she was raped, her baby was killed, and many of her family members were killed. Then there was a long legal process that came into play, and at the end of that, 11 people were convicted for life sentence on different counts, but they were released last year. They were garlanded and they were given laddus at the time of their release. They were controversially released on the Independence Day by the Gujarat government that an outdated remission policy was utilized for their release, and that really sparked widespread condemnation. Uh, Now, the Gujarat government's decision to release the convicts triggered outrage from activists and civil society. Uh, Bilkis Bano expressed her lack of awareness about the release. Initially, the released convicts received a hero's welcome. They received a warm welcome. You can see on the screen the CBI special court opposed the release of rape convicts, uh, but they were released again on your screen. They were garlanded at the time of their release. Those are the convicts who were released. You can see they were garlanded, and that is Bilkis Banu with her family. Uh, so clearly, that is the situation. But the Supreme Court, led by Justice B.V. Nagaratna and Ujwal Bhuyan, conducted an 11-day hearing on the petition challenging the release, including one filed by Bilkis Banu. The court reserved its judgment, its verdict, and now that verdict is going to be pronounced today. So you can see those are uh, some of the statements that were made by the top luminaries of the country at that point in time. Immoral, unjust, unfair, says Justice Deepak Gupta. At the time of the release, very bad precedent, revolt against judicial apparatus. Justice UD Salve. Uh, that was that comment made by the top judge of the country. Shocking who approved it and how. Justice Madan Lokar, that is, uh, that's the time of the remission. Now, they were all released at the time on the Independence Day by the Gujarat government on the basis of the recommendations of a panel. Now, that panel included individuals affiliated to the BJP. They justified the release by calling the convicts as sanskari Brahmins. In fact, Mojo Story has been following that story. In an interview to Mojo Story, one of the members who was on that uh, panel said that they were sanskari Brahmins and they were released uh, on the basis of the recommendations of the panel. Now, this was done by the Gujarat government, of course, with the concurrence of the center, keeping the center in loop. The Gujarat government defended the release under a 1992 remission policy, despite a 2014 law suspending it, prohibiting release in case of capital offenses. Now, as I was mentioning, a panel which included individuals affiliated to the BJP justified the release of the convicts by calling them as sanskari or cultured Brahmins, uh, with 14 years of imprisonment and good behavior while they were behind the bars. But clearly, there it sparked an outrage, and there was a bunch of PILs that was lodged, including one by Bilkis Bano. In fact, we can play that sound bite, our interview with one of the members of that panel who termed the convicts as sanskari or cultural Brahmins at the time of their release.
क्राइम किया कि नहीं किया हमको पता नहीं है, लेकिन क्राइम के बारे में मैं क्या, कोई इंटेंशन भी हो सकता है ना कि जो भूतकाल की जो कार्यवाही है उसके फैमिली के मेंबर के जो कोई एक्टिविटी है वो बहुत अच्छी थी, ब्राह्मण लोग थे और वैसे भी ब्राह्मण के जो कुछ है उसके संस्कार भी बड़ा अच्छा था, इसलिए किसी को मतलब करके गुने में डाल के उसको पनिशमेंट करने का बद इरादा भी हो सकता है।
The Bombay High Court had called it as a massacre at the time of the verdict, and they were given multiple, you know, multiple life imprisonments in multiple cases. It was not just the rape, but the killing of the baby, of the family members. It was on multiple counts. But the court had said that all of those life imprisonments would run concurrently. Now that those defending the convicts say that they had given 14 years term and they are they can apply for the remission policy. So that is an important thing that will be looked by the court, whether they can be released despite having multiple life sentences on them, and whether what was the center's role in all of this. But it is very important to note here that whatever the judgment comes today will have implications on others who are in jail and who have applied for the remission. It's also important to note that this is not just a legal matter but a moral issue also. So clearly there are different things involved here, and various petitions were filed by activists, by politicians such as Mova Motra of the Trinamool Congress. Some journalists had filed former vice chancellor of the Lucknow University. The Supreme Court raised questions during the hearing, questioning how the convicts could be released after serving 14 years when their death penalty had been commuted to life imprisonment. The court expressed concern that the Gujarat government was on thin ice regarding the early release. The Supreme Court is set to deliver its judgment now, determining the fate of the Gujarat government's decision. Now you can see that those pictures, they were extremely revolting when they were released. They were garlanded and they received a warm welcome. This is one of the members of the panel who in fact recommended their release and terming them as cultured Brahmins or Sanskari Brahmins to an interview to Mojo Story at that point in time. This evoked strong criticism. Lawyer for convicts has told the Mojo Story that center absolutely approved the release. So clearly making it clear that center was in the loop and the approval was sought from the center. Center release, convicts were released under old 1992 law, says the Gujarat affidavit in Supreme Court. But obviously that is obsolete now, and there is another law that's come to play, but they were released on the basis of that law. Given the CBI's opposition to release of convicts, is their release legal? That is the question that will be that has already been deliberated by the Supreme Court for 11 days, and that judgment was kept reserved. And today that verdict will be pronounced. Important verdict, not just for this case, but it will have implications for other cases as well. Clearly, justice for Bilkis Bano, that is what people have been asking for. Now, she was just 20 years at that point in time, and she was raped. Her mother was killed. Her small baby was killed with a stone banged on the head of the baby, and all that was done in front of her. And this legal process dragged on for years altogether, and finally they were convicted and they were awarded a life sentence on multiple counts, which obviously ran concurrently. So the Gujarat government saying that they have already given 14 years in the prison, and they are entitled for a remission. And on the basis of the recommendations of a panel, they were released. All of them. But you saw from those images, they were garlanded, they were given laddus at the time of release, and the members of the panel defending their decision by saying that they are sanskari Brahmins, and that's precisely the reason they had a good conduct and they were released. Supreme Court holds that Bilkis Banu's petition challenging the remission is maintainable. So that is important, whether the petition challenging the remission is maintainable or not. Supreme Court has already said that it is maintainable. It's not just Bilkis Banu, but many others have filed a bunch of litigation, public interest litigations in that case. So clearly, it is an important day today as far as Bilkis Banu case is concerned. Justice Nagarthana, the victim's right, also important. A woman deserves respect. So clearly, we're getting all those statements from the legal luminaries and the judges who have expressed their opinion. Remember, this court was this case was taken up by the CBI. Then it was transferred from Gujarat to Maharashtra because the defects that were pointed out by the police investigation in Gujarat. That's why the case was transferred from Gujarat to Maharashtra. And Maharashtra High Court, at the time of its verdict, said that it is a massacre. They used the term massacre. And then, of course, all these 11 men were given life imprisonment. Now, the lawyer of the convicts had at that point in time told Mojo Story that center was absolutely in the loop. So it was done with the concurrence of the center. Justice Nagarthana has now said that can heinous crimes against women be permitted? So that is the story right now that we've been following since last year when that remission happened, and those pictures came out. They were garlanded, they were given laddus, and it was sort of celebrated their release. They received a warm welcome, and some of the reports indicate that one of them, who's a lawyer, has started his practice even, and others have started living a normal life. And all those people who were on the panel defended their decision by saying that they are sanskari Brahmins. But the case has again gone to the Supreme Court. There's so many petitions that have been filed, including the one filed by Bilkis Banu herself. And those petitions are maintainable. That's what the Supreme Court has said. And now that verdict will come soon. That the two justices, Justice Nagarthana, Justice Krishna Iyer, have said, quoting George Bernard Shaw, that men are not improved by injuries too long to take on. So that is what they have said. Supreme Court upholds the petition against remission. Now that is important, that Supreme Court has upheld the petition against remission. Now the legal experts at that point in time said that life imprisonment was not granted to them so that they will sort of improve, their conduct will improve, or they will turn out as better individuals at the end of the day. But the fact that it was done as a deterrent for others, that was the motive for that life sentence. Now, Supreme Court has held that Bilkis Banu petition challenging the remission is maintainable, but that verdict will be announced today. We are all waiting for that verdict. Remember, this is an important case that's been discussed for years altogether, and it will have ramifications for other cases as well. As far as justice for Bilkis Banu is concerned, that is the primary subject of this case, but it will have its implications on other cases as well, and in the future, how these remissions will be done. So that verdict is to be announced today, shortly. Just to recap for our viewers, that Supreme Court is poised to deliver its judgment regarding the contentious release of 11 convicts involved in the brutal gang rape of Bilkis Bano during 2002 riots in Gujarat and the brutal murder of her family. The convicts were controversially released on Independence Day in 2022 by the Gujarat government, utilizing the 1992 remission policy, which had sparked condemnation from different quarters. It had triggered outrage, and a bunch of PILs were filed. At that point in time, the hearing was done for 11 days. The judgment was kept reserved, and today that judgment will be pronounced. The released convicts received a warm welcome. They were garlanded, they were given laddus, and it was sort of celebrated that they have come out of the jail. And one of the convicts has reportedly began practicing a law, and that was the fact that was brought to court's attention in subsequent hearings. Now, they were awarded life sentences on multiple counts. Remember, it's rape, it's murder, it is uh, destroying the evidence. There were multiple counts on which they were awarded life sentence by the Mumbai High Court, which termed this incident as a massacre. And the case was basically moved from Gujarat to Mumbai uh, because there were because there were lots of defects, as were pointed out in the investigation. The CBI had, in fact, investigated the case, and they had awarded uh, the sentence, which was upheld by the Mumbai High Court. And then, after their release, you can see on that screen our correspondent at that point in time. She spoke to one of the members of that panel who had links with the BJP, who was a legislator of the BJP, and he went on to defend those convicts by saying that the released person were sanskari Brahmins or cultured Hindus, and they had a very good track record. Their behavior was very good in the court. Now, the point is that this was not to improve their behavior, as the legal luminaries have been pointing out, but this was to act as a deterrent for others to stop them from indulging in such heinous crimes. Now, this person who was on the panel, in fact, also indirectly questioned the judgment of the convicts had in fact accepted that their crime, but he says that nobody knows what exactly happened. If we can again play that sound bite of this member of the panel who spoke to our correspondent at that point in time and said that the convicts were sanskari Brahmins. So now we got some breaking news. Supreme Court holds the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission order. So that's the big breaking news that we are bringing to you. Supreme Court has said that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders. So that will have strong ramifications, and that means that perhaps all those people who are released, these convicts, may again be have to go to the court. The court orders are liable to be declared as nullity. So Supreme Court has said that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders. Now remember, this was Gujarat which had passed the remission orders, and on that basis they were released. All 11 of them, they were released on the basis of that. Gujarat had formed a panel. Now that panel was also controversial, with some of the members having association with the BJP. They were political. It was also a political panel. So that panel went on to recommend their release, and they were released on the Independence Day last year. Then there was a bunch of PILs that was filed, including one by Bilkis Bano, and there was 11 days of hearing that was done, and now today the judgment was initially kept reserved, and today it has been pronounced. And according to that judgment, now we're getting this breaking news. The Supreme Court has held that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders, which means that the release could actually be illegal. One of the questions before the Supreme Court was whether the release of 11 convicts is legal or illegal. Now that the Supreme Court is saying that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders. So if the Gujarat um, state of Gujarat was not competent to pass those orders, does that also mean that the release, their remission of their sentence is illegal? That's a big question that we are asking. What will be the implications of this judgment? The Supreme Court has also said that the statement in victim's writ petition was misleading. So those are some of the flashes that we're getting from what is happening in Supreme Court as far as this judgment is concerned. But the big breaking news that we are bringing to you: Supreme Court has held that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders. Now, does this mean that their remission, the remission of the death sentence and their release will turn as null and void now? That's the big question. That's a very important development that's happened. The Supreme Court has said pass the verdict on the release of 11 convicts. The writ petition was filed by the convict by surpassing relevant facts. He also made misleading statements. So that's a very clear, strong judgment by the Supreme Court, which has held that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders. Now, this is a breaking news that we are bringing to you as far as the Bilkis Bano case is concerned. The state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission order. The writ petition was filed by the convict by surpassing relevant facts. He also made misleading statement. Now, this writ petition was put across by the convict, and the Supreme Court here pointing out that there was misleading details that was given. So clearly, that's the big news that we are bringing to you, that convicts will have to go back to jail. That is what it comes down to. It boils down to today's Supreme Court verdict, boils down to the fact to the fact that convicts will have to go back to jail. Supreme Court has reversed the order of the release of 11 convicts by the state of Gujarat. That has been reversed by the Supreme Court. The orders are liable to be declared as nullity. So that is the big story that we are bringing to you. Supreme Court has reversed the order for the release of 11 convicts who were involved in the gang rape of Bilkis Bano and who were involved in the murder of her family. They were released last year on the basis of the remission that was granted to them by the Gujarat state, which again was done on the basis of the recommendations of a panel. But now Supreme Court has reversed all of that. The orders are liable to be declared as nullity. Supreme Court clearly saying that uh, the state of Gujarat did not have the power to was not competent to pass the remission orders. That's the exact words that's being used by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has said that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass those orders. On the basis of those orders, they were released. Now, the Gujarat state had been insisting that they had given 14 years in the prison, and they were just following a procedure. And according to the procedure, all these convicts were released on the basis of recommendations of a panel. But that all of that has been reversed by Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has said that state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders, which essentially means that the convicts will have to go back to jail. That's the big breaking story that we are bringing to you. At the time of their release, they were garlanded, they were given laddus, and in fact, one of the members on the panel at that point in time told Mojo Story that they were sanskari Brahmins or cultured Hindus. But today, Supreme Court has reversed that order. It's a big breaking story that we are bringing to you. Supreme Court has held that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders. It is the big breaking story that we are bringing to you, that the orders have been reversed, which means all these 11 men will have to go back to jail. That is the operational part of the verdict which has come out, which says that the Supreme Court has said that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders. Now, this is a big development, so which means that the convicts will have to go back to jail. That is the big story that we are bringing to you. We will have to check with the legal experts that what does it mean, but this is what we have got to know. The Supreme Court has held that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission orders. Now, this is the big story that we are bringing to you. Now, this hearing was done for 11 days. The verdict was kept reserved for all these months, and today that verdict has been pronounced. Now, that verdict has been pronounced, which has held that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass the remission. Now, to recap for our viewers, all these 11 men who were convicted by the Mumbai High Court for on multiple counts. They were given death sentence for the gang rape, for murdering the family of Bilkis Bano, and on other counts. But all of those had to run concurrently. On the basis of the recommendations of a panel, the state of Gujarat uh, 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 released them. They passed the remission orders last year, and they were released to a warm welcome, to a hero's welcome. They were garlanded and they were given laddus, and those people who were on the panel defended their release, and they said that they are sanskari Brahmins. So the big breaking story we are bringing to you is that the Supreme Court has said that that the state of Gujarat was not competent to pass those remission orders. Now, of course, as I was saying, that this will have implications for other such cases also. What would others who have suffered violence and atrocity, they would be looking keenly that justice is very important in this case. It will set an example. It was We got to know that the judge has said it was not only uh, the respondent. So there are many details coming in, but let us for now try and play that sound bite again, in which that member of uh, the BJP on the panel said that they were sanskari Brahmins and their conduct was good in the jail, and on that basis those recommendations were passed.
क्राइम किया कि नहीं किया हमको पता नहीं है, लेकिन क्राइम के बारे में मैं क्या कोई इंटेंशनली भी हो सकता है ना, कि जो भूतकाल की जो कार्यवाही है उसके फैमिली के मेंबर के जो कोई एक्टिविटी है वो बहुत अच्छी थी, ब्राह्मण लोग थे, और वैसे भी ब्राह्मण के जो कुछ है उसके संस्कार भी बड़ा अच्छा था, इसलिए किसी को मतलब के गुने में डाल के उसको पनिशमेंट करने का बद इरादा भी हो सकता है.
Right, you heard it. What that member on the panel was saying, of course, associated with the BJP. Now, the breaking story that we are bringing to you is that Supreme Court has held that the judgment on May 13, 2022, which directed the Gujarat government to consider remission, is a nullity, as it was obtained by suppressing material facts. So that's the big story that we are bringing to you. That those orders have been reversed, which may mean that the convicts may have to go back to jail. A big story coming out from Supreme Court on the verdict on Bilkis Bano is out now, and those orders which called for which in turn led to their remission by the state of Gujarat on the basis of the recommendation made by a panel which had members who had political associations. Some of them were close to the BJP, who termed them as sanskari Brahmins. all of that has been nullified by the Supreme Court. That Supreme Court has held that the judgment on May 13, 2022, which directed the Gujarat government to consider remission. Now, that on that basis, on the basis of that judgment, the panel was formed by the Gujarat state, and on the basis of the recommendations of that panel, they were released. But Supreme Court has gone back to the original judgment of May 13, 2022, which had directed the Gujarat government to consider remission, is a nullity. So, when the first step has been considered as a nullity, the entire sequence of events falls down. That means that the first step is a nullity. It was obtained by suppressing material facts. So the entire sequence of events. That means the constitution of the committee and their recommendations, on the basis of their recommendation they were released, so all of that stands nullified according to today's verdict. Now the judgment of May 13, 2022 is also, that's what Justice Nagaratha said today, is also per incarium, bad in law, as it refused to follow binding precedents, including the Constitution Bench judgment in Sriharan regarding the appropriate government for remission. So these are the legal things that have been discussed by the Supreme Court. So clearly, the fact is that, again, at the time of the remission, some of the legal luminaries, legal experts said that the concerned judge in the trial court needed also to be consulted at that point, which was not done. The Supreme Court has said judgment of court of May 13, 2022 is hit by fraud and a nullity. Strong words by Supreme Court, which means the first step, it has been declared as a nullity. So all the sequence of events, the steps that followed, will fall down, and now the convicts that who were released last year may have to go back to prison, back to jail, as they were facing a life sentence on multiple counts, which had to go concurrently. They were involved in the gang rape of Bilkis Bano and the murder of her family. Now, this case was moved from Gujarat to Mumbai High Court, which declared it at the time of the verdict that it was a massacre. Now clearly, more details we're getting. Justice Nagaratna has said that decision rendered in ignorance of statute or binding precedents is per incarium. So that is the legal meaning of it. Means that the convict had given misleading information to the court in the first place, to the Supreme Court. On the basis of that misleading information, the Supreme Court asked the Gujarat government to consider remission. Gujarat government constituted a panel, and that panel had people who were also associated with politics, with the ruling party, and they, on their recommendations, they were released. All the 11 convicts were released, and they were released to a warm welcome. They were garlanded and given laddus, and the people on the panel defended their release by saying that they were sanskari Brahmins or cultured Hindus, and their behavior was good in court, and an SOP, a normal precedent, was followed because they had served 14 years. So now the details we're getting here is that Justice Nagarthana says, we hold government of state of Gujarat had no competence to entertain the application for remission or pass orders thereon. This court order dated 13/5/2022 obtained by fraud and nullity. All proceedings taken in furtherance of the judgment are also vitiated and a nullity in law. So everything has been nullified because the first step has been nullified because the court says that it was done on the basis of a fraud. So all the entire sequence of events that followed, the constitution of the committee, their recommendations, and the remission, all of this has been reversed, and which means the convicts would have to go back to jail. That order of remission has been reversed. We'll keep a close track on this story, the big story that we're bringing to you, that convicts to have to go back to jail. Supreme Court has reversed the remission orders. That's the big story that we're bringing to you in the Bilkis Bano case. We'll keep a close track on this story all through the day. But for now, thanks so much for joining us and for watching the Mojo Story.
Mojo Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.